Hello and welcome to the 8th episode of How Could You Forget, a fun podcast where your hosts Gurdon, Camp, and Lexi, as well as sometimes guests, come together and learn about a topic that maybe you'd forgotten about, never heard about, or is simply too good to forget.
It's a double back-to-back for me because these lads have YouTube channels and I don't, so I decided to do the topic this week so that they could do their other videos they're working on getting out. So I will be hosting.
Lexi.
It's appreciated.
Everybody comment "Thank you, Lexi" in the comments, please, for her.
Yes,
I will try
please.
to like everyone. That
I'll be
says,
watching.
Thank you, Lexi.
Oh, speaking of, we're on a new channel. If you are listening to this on video formats,
Wait,
Isn't that wild?
they would know. They would know that if they're watching the video.
well, I know, but if
It
they're
would
not
be-
listening on video formats, and
yeah,
they're
but
on,
that's what. Yeah, but you said if you're listening on video formats, they would already be at the new channel.
okay, then doesn't matter. I was just trying to bring it
We're
up.
getting there. We're getting there slowly but surely. We're getting into the rhythm. It's,
Are we?
Are we? I don't know. I mean, I'm hoping.
I think the rhythm is disjointed right now.
Listen,
It's this
but if you're
ginger beer.
listening, on like Spotify or Apple or wherever, first of all, thank you, because that's great. But
Thank
second
you.
of all, if you want the visuals associated with this stuff, it's on your channel now. It's on the How Could You Forget podcast now. It has its own. Our little baby is all grown up and is spreading its wings, and it's on its own separate channel. I lost the analogy partway through.
Yeah, so
It's a baby that grew its wings, like the average baby.
I don't like that at all. Yeah, we're on our own dedicated channel on YouTube. So if you listen through audio formats, like Cam said, thank you very much. And if you want to see the visuals that go with that, or if you just use YouTube and you find that easier, we have our own channel on at HCYF Podcast or the How Could You Forget Podcast. All the episodes that we recorded previously are on that channel now. They're no longer on the Gurdon channel. So if you go to the Gurdon channel, wondering
He
where they
died.
are, they're not there. They're on How Could You Forget podcast channel.
You should still go to the Gurdon channel because there's some really good stuff coming up there. But
True.
now for the podcast, it has its own little space.
Yeah,
Woo!
and also go to the Campfire Harvest YouTube channel. Plug.
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 Plug what?
We can do more plug later.
Okay, I'll pull it up. All right. No, but anyway, all right. Enough plugging for now. We got a
Plugging and
podcast to
chugging.
get to. Yeah.
So today I'm really excited because I have a topic that neither Camp nor Gurdon really know a lot about, and I just kind of picked it at random, but it ended up being pretty fun. We're going to be talking about the MP3 player war.
Huh.
All the
So-
fatalities?
No, well, yeah.
What do you
Actually, there
mean,
were
yeah?
there were fatalities. It wasn't people, but there were fatalities.
I don't know anything about this war, but you can definitely say it wasn't a lossless war. Sorry, that joke probably made no sense to anyone except like audiophiles.
Audio moment. So really, there's no official name of the MP3 player war. That's just what I called it. I looked into this because I wanted to see some of the competition between different MP3 players and like media devices. So for the sake of this video, when I say MP3 player, I'm including other devices that are just meant to be portable music players. So before I get any actually like Pac-Man Redditors potentially in the comments, yes, I know some of these music players can play WAV files, WMV files, music videos, photos, all that jazz, but so I don't have to say that 500 times. When I say MP3 player, that's what I'm referring to. So wanted to get that disclaimer out there.
Yeah, just any kind of portable audio thing,
Right.
basically. Yeah.
Right. And primarily used for audio. So we're not going to be talking about smartphones. We're not going to be talking about tablets. This is truly in the era of you had a dedicated MP3 player or portable media player that was only for that type of media. So the reason why I wanted to talk about this topic is because I thought back to when I was a youngin', not that I'm that old, but, we're all in the gap between millennial and Gen Z. I think the official term is zillennial. I don't really like that word. It sounds kind of weird, but zillennial. And I remember a time when I had a CD player in early elementary school. So that's what I was listening to my music on. I have a very distinct memory of listening to Behind These Hazel Eyes by Kelly Clarkson while like looking out the bus window as my CD would skip. So I still remember that era, of course. And then I remember the very first time I ever saw an iPod in real life, not on a commercial. And that would have been in late elementary school during a field trip. My friend Annie, she had an iPod. I think it was an iPod mini. And she let me listen to Hips Don't Lie by Shakira. So that was the first song I ever heard on an iPod.
Ooh, lore.
Wow,
Lexi lore. Double L.
Yeah. Being very vulnerable here, guys. Telling you the first song I ever heard on an iPod.
I know, it is very. It's a very big moment in a young person's life.
In a young person, yes.
Right. So before I get into some of the more like factual sorts of stuff, do you guys remember having MP3 players? Did you have an iPod? What was your experience with that?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, Gurren, do you have like anything big, or am I free to yap?
I'll go my quick one because then you can just freely yap as long as you need to. But I remember specifically hearing about iPods for so long, and my big brother through big brothers, big sisters, he like let me borrow his like the spinny one with the wheel, and he's like, "Hey, check this out," and he pulled up like music and he played it, and then of course there was like
I think most of them have a spinny wheel if they have a screen on them.
Well, I know, but like that, you know, on the old iPod, like classic, that little spinny wheel.
Oh yeah, see the iPod Mini had that too.
Yeah,
yeah,
but the big one, like the big one, and he would he let me play it, like hold it and like play music, and then he's like, and then look, and then he played like a music video on it, and I was like, what? Like blown away.
Oh my god.
I'm in the future.
Yes,
exactly.
What the hell?
No, yeah, I mean, my thing's pretty much kind of the same. Like I had my own MP3 player, but it was like a knockoff iPod Shuffle. Like it was just like the little kind of box. It only had storage for like a couple, like 100 songs, I think, which now it's like, that's insane to think about. But back then I was like, yo, so much room for activities.
Right. Right.
Yeah. And, you know, I always felt cool rolling up to school with my MP3 player when I was in like 6th grade.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, a little bit.
Did you ever have an iPod, or did you only ever have like a other brand?
Yeah, I didn't have like an iPod Nano or like a classic iPod. I did get an iPod Touch 2nd generation when I was like 13 or 12.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And that was very cool because it was a similar experience to Gordon, where it was like, dang, not only can this play music, but it can go on the YouTube and it can do game.
On the Angry Birds.
I can play Angry Birds. Let's go.
Oh my goodness.
No, yeah, but that was my experience mainly, and I also still had. Actually, I don't know if either of you guys end up doing this in your high school years, but throughout high school, my first cell phone was like a BlackBerry, and it was like one of the. It was like one of the ones that like it didn't even have a touchscreen. It was just like a keypad that you like
with the
type things
ball
into. Yeah, just like that. Well, it wasn't. This one wasn't a rolly ball. This was. I was a little bit into the future. I had like a little touchpad on my.
Oh my goodness.
Cool. No, but I had that. But then for like everything else, like when it came to music and stuff, because the music quality on the BlackBerry, pardon my French, it was shit.
Yeah.
So I had the iPod for like. I had the BlackBerry for like communicating and like talking to people and everything, and then I had the iPod for everything else. And I'm wondering if that happened with other people too. Like if you just had separate devices for that stuff. Like,
see, I do know a lot of people that had that. I have never owned an Apple product, so I never had an iPod.
Honestly based.
Yeah, I mean, and it wasn't even like on purpose. And like I didn't grow up poor, but I didn't grow up. I was like
she's
somewhere
not one of those
in the
poors.
middle. Well, no.
One of the fabled middle class.
I'm not. I didn't grow up poor, but I didn't grow up rich. I was like kind of in the middle. We had enough money to where I could like do things at school or like get my school supplies for the school year, but my parents didn't just like go out and buy us random stuff. Like My brother got a PlayStation 2 for Christmas one year, but it was also kind of like that was how we watched DVDs. So
Oh, yeah.
it was an expensive purchase, but it was also with the idea of like, hey, we know you want this PS2 and we're going to get it for you, but it's also kind of a family gift because we're all going to use it. So that, kind of in the middle there, but yeah, I never owned an Apple product. I've always been off-brand MP3 players, Android for life, Android gang.
Android gang, represent.
I've only ever had Windows PC and laptops and stuff. So, but I'm glad that we had this segue because, of course, we're going to talk about the iPod. You can't not talk about the iPod when you're talking about MP3 players. But I want to give a little bit of history just on portable media players in general before we kind of jump into some of the more funny or like we're probably gonna have a lot of nostalgia in this episode too, so I want to leave room for that, but I also kind of want to set the stage because there's a lot of things I didn't know, and I'm sure people listening might be like, wow, I've never heard that before. I had this type of MP3 player but not this one. So just jumping right in, the first mass-produced portable solid-state digital audio player. That's a mouthful.
What?
Was actually the MP Man, which was made in South Korea, and it was debuted in March. It debuted in March of 1998. So that was when the quote first mass-produced portable solid-state digital audio player was made. I didn't know that. I thought it was an iPod. I thought iPod was the first people to do that, but apparently not. So this MP Man was imported to North America, it said, and it was sold in North America, but I'm not really sure if it took hold because I would imagine it was probably very expensive, not only because of the technology, but because it was also imported from South Korea. And this was in the late 90s, so I don't think the trade was what it is today. So I can't imagine the cost of that technology plus the cost to import it. So I jumped to the conclusion that it really probably wasn't popular here in North America because it would have been out of reach for a lot of people. But I just wanted to mention that device because, again, that was the first one. And so going into what is really, again, I thought was the first digital audio player, but the iPod. So the first iPod was released November 10th, 2001.
Jeez. That's actually really weird to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like it makes sense when you think about it, but it's like, nah, that is
it's like
too long ago. It is like, nah.
It's A, so long ago, and B, my Murica's coming out. I was like, this was not even barely 2 months after September 11th.
Wow.
Like that put it into perspective for me. I'm like, wow, the world was not ready for the iPod in 2001. Like America was not ready. So I had no idea that was that early. I thought it was later on in the 2000s that the iPod came out, but no, it was November of 2001.
Dang, yeah.
Yeah, so I would have been like 5, I think. Yeah, because if it was post 9/11, then yeah, it would have been 5.
Mm-hmm.
That's wild.
That's very crazy to think about. So that was when it was released, and some of the details about the iPod, without getting into the meat of what I want to talk about, it really hurt my soul when I was reading the Wikipedia article, because that's, I read Wikipedia articles for all this stuff, so no scholarly research here, sorry, I'm just reading from Wikipedia.
This is not the place for that.
Yeah, right. It hurt my soul, though, when I read that, the iPod was released here, and then the iPod is, quote, discontinued series of portable media players.
Huh. I don't, in my head, I never actually registered that they wouldn't be making iPods anymore.
Right. I'm like, oh, okay, so it really did just go from iPod to iPhone, and we just said, okay.
Yeah, you're just like, yep, that's it.
We don't need these anymore. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I guess you really don't. Like, we got everything in the little crap black boxes that we carry around from now on.
Right.
It's how it be.
So, obviously, I told you the title of this was the MP3 Player War. So, it's not just going to be a, history of iPod. But we're going to talk about iPod.
I was wondering about that. You kind of slipped that in, and I'm like, oh yeah, the history of the iPod and MP3 players, and like, yeah, some personal experience. But when I hear a war, I'm expecting like something like a lot of fighting, like like the chicken sandwich wars that happened a couple years ago.
Oh, you will.
Oh,
The chicken sandwich
something
wars.
like that.
Oh my goodness. Well, you will.
I'm intrigued.
You will. I'm trying to figure out if I can.
No, you can't.
Thank you. I was gonna put. This is a picture of the MP man.
Oh.
So that you guys, because again,
I love the color.
Yeah, the color is very fun. It's a yellow color.
Yeah, honestly, I kind of miss this kind of technology. You know what I mean?
Right. Just very straightforward. No guessing. Just, okay, this is what it does.
Yeah. Super snazzy looking, too. It's a good color.
But anyway, you had the MP man, and then you have iPod. Well, after this, especially, we're going to talk specifically about North America, because this is where the data, we have data on this. So the iPod launched in 2001, and you have other companies that see this and they go, okay, we want to get in on this. So according to the article, some of iPod's chief competitors include Creative Labs or Creatives, Zen, so the device was called the Zen, SanDisk's Sansa, so the Sansa device. Sony Walkman apparently tried to make something called the iRiver. I had never heard of that one. And Samsung tried a device called the YEP.
The what? Yep.
YEPP.
Well,
that's the word for it. Yeah.
It's pronounced YEP. If not, please, maybe it's a Korean word and it's said differently, but that's how I read it. And then, of course, who could forget? This is the one that comes to my mind when I think of...
How could you forget?
Yeah, how could you forget? I didn't. This is who comes to mind when I think of a competitor. I think of the Microsoft Zune when I think about iPods.
I love the Zune.
Don't worry. We're going to go over every, we're going to go over all of the ones I mentioned minus the Sony Walkman's competitor and Samsung, because I had never even heard of those and I don't know of anybody that had one. So maybe I'm biased, but I'm not going to be talking about those two. But I will be talking about, obviously, iPod, Zen, the Sansa, and then the Zune. So...
okay.
We will go over...
when you said Zen, that was kind of like neuron activation for me, because I think that Zen was the brand name for the MP3 player that I had, the little shitty black box before I had the iPod Touch.
Oh, okay.
So I had a stake in the MP3 player war, whether I knew it or not.
Hell yeah! Okay.
You fired the first shot.
Because that's the one I have not heard of. Because I actually have still two SanDisk Sansas in a box, like at my house now.
Quick question.
So, yeah.
Is that maybe a not American thing? Like, is it maybe a bigger outside of the U.S.? Is that a possibility, maybe?
The Zen?
Yeah.
No, it was also in America.
Okay. I just wanted to check and see. But.
Yeah, no, you're good. Yeah, it was also in America. Again, all of the ones I'm going to talk about, they had a North American presence. So that would be mostly Canada and the U.S.
Gotcha.
So, like I mentioned before, I kind of beat this, into the ground that iPod came out in 2001, and all these companies are like, "Hey, we need to make something, to compete with this." So, Creative Labs, who created the Zen, they were exclusively known for having an extremely fierce rivalry with Apple. It says at one point, the CEO in November of 2004, quote, declared war on the iPod.
Okay.
So he's so he's straight up like, again, he wasn't going to actually try war tactics, but
He's sending in the nukes.
he straight up was like, we want to compete against Apple. Like, we want to become the winner. So I was like, wow, dude, is it really that serious? I mean, I guess if they're fighting for a market share, but I was like, whoa, okay, we're a little bit
It's going a little bit 0 to 100, I think, dude. Like,
yeah, most
calm
of the
down.
time, even the Apple Android thing, like neither one of them have ever like declared war. Like Samsung hasn't said, "Oh, we're declaring war on Apple." Like, you know, it's just kind of implied. But no, that the CEO of Creative Labs, quote, declared war on iPod.
Lexi, I'm just imagining the president of this company coming out like JFK, just coming out and being like, "You don't know what you're messing with, Apple. I pray for every single person that owns one singular iPod. You will not see the light of day again."
Oh my, like it's just a giant manifesto or something.
Yeah, it's just like a horrible.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I'm going to send a picture of one of the Zen models. Of course, a lot of these have many different models, but here is just one example. We'll put it on screen for the video version.
Oh, wow. Okay.
This was a later version, I believe. I wasn't able to find... Let me see if I can actually find an earlier model, because obviously, yeah, this one has a screen on it, and like this would have been way later in the. So here is the. This one probably would have been more common. Here is the Zen Micro.
I can't even read the screen.
So this one would have, again,
so
as
bright.
the name implies, would have been very small. So that's kind of more in line. When I think of like MP3 players, I think more of the smaller, you know, you can only see the name of the song, not the fancy, nice, you know, videos.
Yeah, not the super colorful, like, yeah.
Right.
Yup.
Right. So talking about the Zen or creative Zen for a little bit. So again, November of 2004, they declared war on iPod.
Wow.
So they announced a $100 million marketing campaign.
Oh my good lord.
To promote their products. Specifically, they were wanting to advertise the Zen Touch and the Zen Micro. So the Zen Micro is the one that I just sent you, the little small one. I don't know. I wasn't able to find a good picture of the Zen Touch, but you can, you know, get the idea. So they invested a lot of money into this, and I just thought that this was a little bit funny. It says on the Wikipedia, many celebrities were seen with the Zen Micro, including Paris Hilton, pop group Maroon 5, and Aerosmith's Steven Tyler.
Wow. So they were doing influencer marketing before influencers were a thing.
Right. And I don't know if they paid them or if they just said, hey, we're going to send you this free thing. And maybe the celebrities were like, hey, this kind of slaps, and like decided to use it. I mean, it makes sense. Like Maroon 5 and then Steven Tyler, like if they're musicians, easily can put your music on there and, you know, check your music or your recordings or whatever. So, Paris Hilton, that's a little bit of a funny one. I know she did do some music, but I'm just like, wow, what a random lineup of people here. That's, you know.
Yeah, it is a little bit odd. It's like Maroon 5, Aerosmith, and Paris Hilton.
Paris Hilton had one?
Known for her music.
Throw her in there, why not?
Right. She does have a couple banger songs, but very interesting. So they went all in on this marketing. Newsflash didn't work.
What?
The sales significantly decreased after 2005. So I'm assuming that, you know, they injected a bunch of money into a marketing campaign. Their sales probably rose through marketing it. But that was, again, in November of 2004. They ran that through 2005. And eventually their market share had decreased to where they were in a financial loss. in 2006. Yeah, so as of, and this is kind of crazy. I don't want to have spoilers, but this is kind of the trend. So for the Creative Zen, as of Q2 2005, they held a 3.6% share in the American MP3 player market, which placed them second behind Apple.
Oh my good Lord.
Can we know how big the Apple one was, or is that spoilers?
Well, let's
do some quick math.
If 3.6% market share puts you second,
Apple's is probably a lot.
Yeah. So
safe to assume.
In 2006, it went up to a 4.3% share.
We're so back.
But then it dropped to number 3.
It's so over.
Behind SanDisk. And then in 2007, it was about 4% of a market share before it dropped to 2% market share in 2008 and 1% market share in 2009.
Jeez.
Oh, geez, so they crashed.
Yeah, they crashed pretty hard. And again, slight spoiler, you'll notice that's pretty common because obviously we know how that story ends. We know that iPod had an absolutely just iron grip on the market. But I wanted to include that because I was just blown away that they were number 2 with a 3.6% share. That I'm like, wow.
That is actually crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy.
So, brief little mention, we're not going to talk too much about it, but apparently Samsung also declared that they would take the top spot from Apple by 2007.
How did that go?
Spoiler alert, that didn't happen either. Samsung lover, I have a Samsung phone now. I had no clue that they made any sort of MP3 players.
Neither did I. This is the first time hearing of it.
Right. And
I knew they made phones that could play MP3s.
It was bigger in South Korea too. Like maybe Samsung was like after the MP man, maybe Samsung really came, up and maybe they took a big piece of the market share there. But definitely in America, I didn't even know. I don't even know if they sold a unit in America.
A single unit? I hope they sold at least one.
I mean, I don't know unless maybe it was available. Anybody that's listening, comment if you had a Samsung MP3 player only. Not
Samsung
a phone.
Represent.
Samsung.
Not a tablet, just a Samsung branded MP3 player because I couldn't find anything specifically that they had something in North America, but that could just be because its market share was so low. So, spoiler, didn't take the top spot from Apple by 2007.
No!
Dang it!
Why not? What happened?
However,
Who
there
could have
was
seen this coming? Sorry.
No, I'm just laughing because we're just all like, damn, it do be like that. So this next one is really interesting because this is also a company that tried to take some of the market share away from Apple and the iPod
succeeded.
specifically. And they didn't. Here's the thing. None of these companies succeeded, but the next one that I'm about to talk about was probably the closest if there ever would have been one.
Okay. Understandable.
So the brand that I'm going to talk about now is SanDisk, which was also known as Sansa. So fun fact, I still have 2 different models. This is the Sansa C200.
Ooh.
Oh, that's so cute.
I have this exact one in a box somewhere.
That's your photo?
No, that's not my photo.
Sorry.
I have this exact red one, and I'm pretty sure I still have the cord for it, so I could probably still charge it and see what I had on here. And then the other one that I had was later on, and it was the SanDisk, or Sansa. Again, I think it's the same. It was the Sansa Clip Zip.
The Clip
so this
Zip.
is what that one looks like. That one is tiny.
Oh. Oh, you
That
can count the
looks tiny.
pixels on that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It was on the back of it. You can't see it in this picture, but it actually had a clippy on it. So you were supposed to like clip it to your pocket or like your backpack or, you know, whatever you were using.
Okay.
That's how you showed everyone that you had the most swag.
Yeah,
Well,
obviously.
yeah.
I mean, this, the clip zip, that was way, like, towards more of the end of the run of MP3 players. Like, I believe 2010 or 11.
2000 and late.
So, yeah, it was definitely 2000 and late. 2010 time. Yeah, I don't know where I was going with that.
We tried.
We're all trying today,
Forever.
okay?
I'm so proud of this community.
Right. Oh, my gosh. Let's hear it for MP3 players.
Woo!
So that's SanDisk. Those are some of their models. Those are the two that I had, so I just showed the photos of that. I don't really know which one was the most popular, but you get the idea. So in response to the iPod, SanDisk launched a full-on campaign against iPod that was called I Don't.
Oh my god.
Wait. Sorry, I don't?
I Don't.
You don't what?
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
What do you don't?
So it was actually a whole thing. They made a website for it. They made posters for it that were posted like actually in physical places.
What?
Yes. And so I'm about to share with you a link to I want to say I think this was the marketing company that did the ad because this was the most comprehensive one I could find. And we'll put some of the pictures on screen as we talk about them.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
basically this I Don't campaign,
I
said, yeah. It was a website, but it was also these posters. So yeah, we have I Sheep Say Ba, and it's got a sheep, you know, with the white headphones in there. I Follow, it's a donkey following a carrot. The Walking Eye Dead.
Are you an I chimp?
Wait, what? Wait. No. Sorry, I'm not. Sorry.
We killed Eric.
I'm just
He's
clicking.
He died.
Oh,
I'm
sad.
just clicking through it, and I love. Oh my gosh. Okay.
He's actually died.
Should I read what I'm saying, or do you want to like guide us through
Oh,
this?
are you
Lexi?
on the website?
I'm on the website screenshots now. Yeah.
Yeah. So there was a website called idont.com. It's probably gone now, but shout out to this Brian Clevenger page. I believe this is the person behind some of the marketing for this. Awesome. I mean, they have the photos up here, so thank you so much for leaving that
Thanks,
up.
Brian.
But the website has a manifesto section, as if that's not suspicious at all. But it has a picture of a sheep on there, which again, we'll put the picture up for the video version. But for those of you that might be listening, picture of a sheep wearing the iconic white headphones for iPod. And under the manifesto, it says, quote, calling all free thinkers, contrarians, and malcontents. The time has come to rise up against the I-tatorship, to resist the monotony of white earbuds, and reject the oppressive forces of cultural conformity. Now is the time to break free from restrictive formats and a single source for music. So that was a reference to iTunes, because you could only use iTunes with an iPod.
Oh my goodness.
It's time for choice, for freedom, for self-expression, and for all independent spirits to stand up and say, I don't.
Oh my
You don't
good
need
Lord.
to follow. There is now an alternative. And so if you clicked on that website underneath the alternative,
You got put on a list.
no, you didn't get put on a list. Maybe a marketing list.
Okay,
If you-
maybe
Yeah,
Maybe on a
marketing
mailing
list.
list.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, maybe a mailing list. You weren't on like a watch list or anything. It linked to the Sansa E200 model. So that was the one that they were marketing with this campaign. And so you can see a picture. Again, we'll put that on screen for people to see on the video version. But basically, for those of you who might be listening to the audio version, it's just a picture of the Sansa E200 device with the little eye sheep graphic on there.
Eye sheep graphics.
Yeah, eye sheep. And
So
the original sheeple. But yeah, it's basically saying like, well, I'll just read it because this branding is crazy. There's some red text above this where it says, I can't even read it because it's that terrible of a color, but something, my life around my batteries. Don't want to live my life around my batteries.
That's
maybe?
what I think it says. It's like, don't want to something my life around my batteries. I can't tell.
So I think basically trying to say, hey, our Sansa E200 has better battery. So the little write-up says, here it is, the Sansa E200. And listen, it's not in our style to be pushy, cheesy sales hacks, I think is what that says. This font is not good. But if any one of the statement above rings true for you, then you probably should give us a closer look. But don't just take our word for it. Check out the independent reviews below. Oh, and when you're ready to put your money where your mouth is, head here to find a store near you.
This marketing is so aggressive.
I know. I miss this aggressive marketing.
I love how the reviews... The first review is from a source called anythingbutipod.com. And then CNET. Like an actual tech reviewer, magazine publisher, CNET, but then you also have anythingbutipod.com.
Totally independent
if they're
review.
biased.
Yeah.
Right.
Biased?
Yeah, because at least CNET, like even if they paid off CNET, which I'm not accusing them of doing, but even if they did that, it's like, okay, CNET reviews a bunch of different stuff, right? But yeah, anythingbutipod.com. Yeah, I love this iPod alternative.
Yeah, I love this thing that's not an iPod. That's trying to disrupt the market. I have no reason to make you think I would have said that.
Let me make that very clear.
This is the MP3 player equivalent of rap beef.
Oh my goodness.
It's great. So,
oh wow.
I know I'm clowning on it, but genuinely, I agree with you guys. Like nobody does this anymore.
Johnny advertiser, whoever you are, you've done a service for us all.
SanDisk directly was
So
like,
real.
we're just gonna go full steam ahead, and you know what?
kind of like. Yeah, like I'm clowning on it a lot. Like it's so ridiculous, but I kind of love it. It's
I love it.
It's genuinely
Right.
charming. Like I love it.
You don't get
much.
this stuff anymore, like legitimately.
Right.
Oh
so
man.
interestingly enough, obviously, SanDisk did not beat out iPods.
Wow.
However, they did remain number 2 for a lot of the portion of the, when MP3 players were still being produced. And
Let's go, dude.
SanDisk, and again, I had 2 of them. I think I maybe even had 3, but I think I broke one of them.
Lexi dual-wielding MP3 players.
Lexi single-handedly disrupted the market.
No, not at the same time. But I remember them being much more accessible. The price point was a lot better. Obviously, you could get smaller versions, whereas like the iPod for a while, they would announce whatever the iPod was going to be for that year or that generation, and you didn't really have any other alternatives. Meanwhile, even though the SanDisk Sansa devices, they only released 1 or 2 every year as well, but I remember the price point being a lot more achievable, and I think that's definitely why I got those for a gift instead of an iPod, because they were just way more affordable.
Yeah, that's probably how they got the market share that they did too. That they kind of like
just make a cheaper
they
product.
were kind of. Excuse me if I'm using the wrong words. I got like a D in accounting, but I think they like undercut the market so that they could accumulate market share and prove that they could sell stuff. I don't know.
Eric, you didn't tell me you were actually like the economic
my
guy.
real
I
name
couldn't
is
think of his
my
name.
real name is actually Beth Bezos. I own Zamzon.com.
Oh.
Who's that rich guy who knows all about the economy? I can't think of his. No, yes.
Warren Buffett? Is
That too, yes.
Oh.
Yes. Warren Buffett.
Wait, Warren Buffett? Oh, I don't know anything about Warren Buffett.
Margaritaville. Okay.
Oh my.
Oh. No, wait, Jimmy.
No, it's not Jimmy Buffett. It's not Jimmy Buffett.
No.
Okay.
She's just lying.
I
but we're
have two
fine.
brain cells, and they're both flying around rapidly right now.
We lost the plot, and we still got a little bit. We
That
still
was
got a
the
little bit.
fastest, just like derailing, and like since we started the podcast, that was the fastest we've weaved off course in
Right.
so long.
Before people even start listening, we already went off course.
Yeah, that's accurate. So to wrap up SanDisk, they are actually the only ones that are not listed as discontinued. So they
Ooh.
actually did create a new model in 2019. So SanDisk might actually be one of the only companies producing MP3 players still.
Ooh.
There we go.
Yeah, so I couldn't find a ton of data on it, but the fact that it wasn't listed as discontinued and they did come out with a new model in 2019 means that, you know, if there is a market left for MP3 players, that they might be the ones fulfilling that market.
All right.
Honestly, great.
Yeah,
Good
so
on
I
them.
thought
Kind of good to know because I've been interested in getting an MP3 player recently. Just a little side tangent.
definitely don't look up your old model on eBay. You will want to cry. They go for so much money. Like when I was
Oh,
looking
I
at
imagine.
those
Like
SanDisk models,
$5?
at least. At least.
It's so expensive. It's got to be at least $5.
True.
Technically the truth.
And Gurdon was right.
I've never lied in my life. Always correct.
True.
Well, we'll not go that far. So the last one I want to talk about is very infamous and actually suffered from the reverse issue that SanDisk had. So we're going to talk about...
Is this the first death, Lexi?
Well, no, I mean, all of the rest of them died.
Oh,
Even the
okay,
iPod
true,
died.
True.
So, you know, basically, yeah, so the fatalities would be all of the MP3 players have died, minus maybe the SanDisk ones, because, again, 2019, God, that feels like it wasn't that long ago, but really in the grand scheme of MP3 history, that's really not that long ago. So,
Yeah, true. I mean, not to mention also my whole view of time has been warped since 2020. So, you know.
yeah, true. I agree with that. So, yeah, moving on to the last one that we're going to talk about, like I mentioned, has the reverse problem that SanDisk had. The Microsoft Zune.
I love the Zune.
Did you
I don't
actually?
think I ever had a Zune.
I had the Zune app on my Xbox. That's my only interaction with the Zune.
Really? Interesting. Yeah, it does say that they pivoted towards that. But anyway, Microsoft Zune. You might know it. You might love it. You might hate it. Created by Microsoft in November of 2006. This I thought was extremely fascinating. I did not know this. According to the Wikipedia page, the first generation Zune was created by Microsoft in close cooperation with Toshiba.
Ayo.
And they took the design of the Gigabit S from Toshiba and renamed it the Toshiba 1089 to trademark it or to register it. I guess maybe not trademark it, but register it with the FCC.
Okay.
So I
Okay.
think that they did this because they didn't want to announce, you know, they didn't want to call it the Microsoft Zune while they were developing this because they didn't want people to know that they were working
They're
on
getting in the
this.
game, yeah.
Right. And specifically, I don't think they wanted Apple to know that. So I thought that was really interesting. Maybe there's other reasons why they decided to work with Toshiba on it, but I thought that that was really interesting because I was like, wow, so they kind of didn't even make it themselves?
They stole it.
Yeah.
Stolen
Kind of,
valor.
well,
It's not stealing,
they
it's
didn't
outsourcing.
steal it because they had a close cooperation / agreement with Toshiba. So Toshiba knew that they were doing that. But, you know, it just was not advertised at the time. So in order to promote the Zune, they invested money, you know, into campaigns and stuff, and they wanted the theme for the Zune to be music the way it wants to be.
Okay.
Don't really know what that's supposed to mean.
Yeah.
And their advertisement tagline was "Welcome to the social."
Wait.
So horrible. That's so bad.
Man, that's almost like the ones to watch for Spike TV.
I was gonna say, yeah, we got a sequel for the worst
Oh
slogan
my
ever.
good
Oh my
Lord.
gosh.
Yeah.
Welcome to
Bro, I am so. How easy is it to be a marketer? Like, genuinely.
Well, honestly, to be a good one is hard. To be one at all, I guess,
It's not
barrier for entry is low.
Yeah, I guess they just throw a few nickels at any schmuck in the office there and just like, come up with a slogan.
Jeff, please. Jeff, come here. I really need help coming up with this tagline, Jeff. Jeff, please, come here. What if we just say welcome to social and Jeff's head exploded. Like
No, Jeff Keighley wasn't at Microsoft.
Okay, ma'am. I'm not talking about that.
Oh my god.
Yeah, he was too busy being a gamer.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was their advertising. Also, they enlisted, it says about 200, quote, Zune masters to advertise the device on college campuses.
That's a slur.
Yeah. And to promote them and run the related events. So in exchange, it says here on the Wikipedia, in exchange, those Zune masters received a free Zune.
I was going, okay, the worst part is that I was about to make a joke being like, oh, what did they pay them with? Zunes? And then you said that, and I was like, no!
They indeed did get paid with Zunes. It says they also received other free merchandise, so like maybe they did give them an Xbox or like hoodie or something.
Do you think those people still have their Zunes? Real question. Like,
maybe.
Do you think that's
I
a
mean,
thing that they're
maybe.
like, come here, Billy, you're 5 now. I'm going to show you Dad's Zune whenever he was a Zune head.
Honestly, I mean, they go for quite a bit on eBay. So,
Maybe I'll eat my words about being a Zune head, but it's just very funny to think of that.
right. It's really funny.
Gurn's going to become a Zune master.
I am the next Zune master. I'm going to start Ink Master, but for Zunes is what I'm going to do.
Whoa. Ink Master, but for Zunes. Wow. Interestingly enough, I literally only knew one person that had a Zune.
Johnny Zune.
I had a middle school friend named Allie, and she was the only one that I know that had. Yeah, shout out to Allie. I hope she's doing well. But she had a Zune, and I remember I thought it was the coolest thing ever. It looked really cool. Honestly, the menu, we showed a picture earlier, and we can flash it up there again for reference. But the menu looks really crisp. It's easy to navigate. I don't hate it.
Yeah, I was gonna say in the image it looks like fine. Like it looks like a decent,
right.
Yeah.
So design wise, I thought it was really nice looking. But for whatever reason, whether it was the terrible tagline or the decision to promote through Zune Masters, obviously
the true Zune heads, yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, the Zune did not do well.
No, again, it can't keep happening.
You can't keep getting away with this.
But it can.
Lexi,
so
I don't know. Okay, I don't know if we're gonna change the subject soon enough, but I just need to. I'm still stuck on the slogan. Was there like a social aspect to the Zune?
That's
like,
a great question.
Is that why they said welcome to social?
Because I think social is on the menu.
Social, okay.
So I
Shout out
don't
to there being
know.
like Facebook integration or like MySpace integration.
I think you're onto something with the MySpace
I can't
thing.
be
Let me
right.
look
I can't
at
be
this.
right.
Well, yeah.
You can't do this to me. I can't be right on my dumb jokes every time.
Let me see. Well, and like you said, there was something for the Xbox as well. So like maybe you could log in with your Xbox account on there.
I mean, again, maybe.
I think very, very cursory, like Google search right now, but it looks like it had the functionality to like share what you were listening to onto like your Facebook or indeed your MySpace.
That's kind of cool, though. Let's be honest.
I was
Okay.
thinking that there was some integration with MySpace, but Yeah, so
Yeah. So I mean,
very
I
interesting.
guess it kind of makes a bit more sense then. But even then, I feel like that. Like, why do you make that the tagline though? I feel like that's the
Not a good
secondary kind of
tagline.
function.
Yeah.
It's just okay. Sorry, I just
Also-
had to get that off my chest. I just needed answers desperately. I just
Yeah, no, I don't blame you because it says welcome to the social and you're like, you're a like music and video player.
you are an MP3
Like,
player. You are a glorified flash drive. That is what you are.
Right. So I don't understand the welcome to the social. Like, I mean, if they wanted to do like music meets social or something, like, oh, okay, music is the primary, but there's also a social element. But it was
Exactly,
literally
yeah.
just welcome to the social.
But I mean, like, yeah, if you just hear about this and all you see is Zune, welcome to the social, you're like, what is this?
What do you
Like,
mean?
What are you
Well,
selling
and this
me?
was
What is
in
going on?
2006. So like MySpace was the only like big social media at the time. So it's not like if something launched now with welcome to the social and you're like, ah, yeah, social media. Okay.
Yeah.
Like-
Yeah, where there's like hundreds of social media sites. Well, I mean,
Right.
maybe 100. You know, there's like dozens people actually use. Whereas back then, it's like MySpace and like maybe back
Friendster?
then Facebook was just
Excuse
getting a
you?
foothold.
Friendster?
Yeah, maybe
was
Friendster.
Friendster.
I remember
Yeah.
a website called Bebo as well. Like,
Bebop.
yeah, it was not nearly the landscape it is today. So they whiffed that one bad.
You
And
can say that a
don't-
couple times.
Yeah, don't worry. The numbers showed that as well.
They fired the hell
says-
out of Jeff for that tagline.
It says from January to September. Okay, also, I want to clarify. This is from the Wikipedia, so I'm quoting the Wikipedia. From January to September of 2009 in the US, Microsoft only held 2% of sales share compared to Apple's 73%, SanDisk's 9%, and 3% for Sony's Walkman line.
Wow.
That's just murder. You're just saying
Yeah.
murder.
Stop.
Yeah.
He's already dead.
That's what it feels like.
Basically. It says here that they lagged behind the SanDisk Sansa line and then the Creative Zen line basically the whole time that they were around.
Could have fooled
So-
me.
Was not good for them. Even more of a kick to the proverbial balls. Obviously,
So
we
sorry.
know.
That just really got me. I'm very sorry.
Sorry.
Oh, that got. You're gonna hear that on the audio, but my head exploded from that sound of the audio. Just for a heads up.
Oh my gosh. So as we know, the Zune was discontinued.
No.
But on October 3rd, 2011, Microsoft announced the discontinuation of all Zune hardware, encouraging users to transition to Windows Phone.
Oh, that's still around.
Oh no.
Everybody,
We all
Get out
use
your
Windows
Windows
phones here.
phone.
Yeah.
everybody wants a Windows Phone for Christmas.
Oh yeah, no. Yeah, Windows Phone is here to stay.
So, yeah. Again, love Microsoft. I like their products, but they swing and a miss twice in a row on that one. That was pretty bad. What I thought was interesting, and I'll quote this directly from the Wikipedia page as well, is, quote, business consultant Simon Sinek, hope I'm saying that right, discusses the Zune in his 2019 book, The Infinite Game, describing the Zune as a triumph of design, but a failure of long-term strategic thinking. Microsoft was focused on beating Apple's portable music player, the iPod, while Apple was behind the scenes focused on the iPhone that was introduced a year after the Zune's debut, and to a large extent rendered obsolete handheld MP3 players by popularizing smartphones.
This is
Oh, that
to build on what you're going very quickly, Lexi. This is the little bit I know about Zunes. Is you're very right. That article, like not that exact article, but I've heard about this. Is that the Zune was actually extremely like technologically forward, and like for an MP3 player was actually very well made. Because like I remember hearing about this by a bunch of like nerdy tech people that were talking about it and talking about like the stuff that was in it, these things, like the software and all this. But you're right, like they hyper focused specifically on yo, we're going to make the best MP3 player. But then off to the side, just, oh, whoops, we didn't think that they were going to make a whole phone that just ruins all of our stuff. Like,
and Apple's like, we good.
And then even when it comes to the Windows Phone, as I used to have a Windows Phone, like, they were just way too behind, and by the time that they caught up, they had just spent so much money and wasted it all. So just wanted to throw in my 2 cents there very quickly.
Right. And you're very right about that. I think they were just, unfortunately, they were behind in the areas that mattered.
Yeah.
And marketing, really. I mean, that's what really shot him in the foot, was marketing. And welcome to social. I mean, what is that shit? Like, for real, we talked about that.
What is that shit?
Before I close, though, on some of this information, going back to the iPod and things like that, I did want to mention that there were also mobile phones being made to try to compete with the iPod at this time. So Nokia apparently made a phone, and then Sony Ericsson actually made a Walkman phone. I had one of these.
Wait, you had a Walkman phone?
I had a Walkman phone.
What?
Yes.
Ooh.
So I will post a picture so you guys can see. We'll put it
cool.
on screen. For those of
That
you
is-
who might be listening in the audio version, it was basically a slide sort of phone. So if you know what the LG chocolate looks like, it was a similar slide up sort of design with the keyboard coming out.
Similar vibe.
And then in the middle of the bottom of the phone, underneath the screen, there was a music button that was similar to, you know, an iPod dial, so to speak, but the middle was the play stop button or play pause. And then, of course, you go forward and backward with the little things.
Yeah, so it's a very reminiscent of like classic iPod controls.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I don't remember what year this was that I had this phone. I want to say...
I mean, this image reeks of 2009, so
It
maybe
very much does.
Yeah.
maybe it was around then.
That's
maybe.
probably accurate. Yeah, that would have put me in about 7th grade. Yeah, that's probably accurate. Because I love this phone, first of all, but I will say, sorry, no shade to Sony Ericsson. I don't know if you're still making phones, but that middle little button that you see there had little plastic on the inside. And I hit the play button and the next button so much that the plastic on the inside cracked.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
gosh.
it was not a very durable phone. And it slid up like super, you know, it didn't take much to slide up and down. So.
Oh, geez. Yeah, so imagine we did it with enough force, it just like snapped right
snaps it
off.
in.
Right, and I
come
didn't
on.
break
Yeah.
it. Yeah, I didn't break it. So, only the little plastic pieces on the front, which my phone still worked with that. But yeah, so I wanted to mention that because when they said that, I was like, oh my God, the Walkman phone. I had a Walkman phone. I didn't have those cool ass earbuds that came with it though. I don't know.
I was gonna say, those are very
Maybe I
2009.
did. I don't remember those at all though. But yeah, so that was a cool time. Also, two megapixel camera.
Whoa.
You know,
Damn, that's crazy.
no big deal.
We're like,
That's
whoa.
big. It's kind of nice.
That's crazy.
Kind of rich, you know.
What are you going to do with
but-
all those megapixels?
I don't know, all 2 of them. I don't.
All the megapixels inside your phone.
Maybe I should share one. I don't know. But all that to say that obviously we know who won the MP3 player war.
Who?
It was the iPod.
Oh, I was guessing Zen, but all right.
I was going
Oh,
with the
yeah.
Zune also.
Oh, you weren't
the
Zune head?
Nicorette brand.
Oh, Gurdon betraying the Zune heads. Oh
Wow.
Oh, I meant I was
Wow.
trying to say the Zin because like the nicotine little pouches. That was the joke I was going for.
no. Wait, there's nicotine pouches named Zen?
Yeah.
Oh, is that an American thing? I'm sorry.
It's called Zin, not Zen.
Oh.
I just kept hearing Zen,
Yeah.
thinking like, oh, Zen, like.
No, Zen as in like being Zen,
Well,
achieving
you can
a
be
state
Zen
of
when
Zen.
you're on some Nick.
No,
I don't
okay.
use
yeah,
nicotine
isn't the whole point
products,
of
but
it?
still.
Like, isn't that
I'm gonna move on.
okay?
So
That works with me.
we all know that the iPod won. And the rest of that's pretty much, what ended up playing out. And I thought it was really interesting because as I was taking a look at this, I'm like, wow, I know they mentioned that Apple was working on the iPhone as Microsoft was releasing the Zune. And you know what? It makes me think now, maybe that's why they released the Windows Phone when they did, because they were probably trying to push a competitor for Apple. And maybe that's why the Windows Phone didn't work as well, because they were focused too much on competition, which would make a lot of sense now that I'm saying that out loud. But
yeah. I mean, I think the dude that was quoted, I forget his name already because I'm smart, but I think he was correct where he said that instead of focusing on
Simon Sinek.
Yeah, Simon Sinek.
Shout out to Simon.
Where instead of focusing on longevity of like making something actually good and that could stand the test of time, they were just focused in the moment on just competing and getting the market share and everything, which isn't really a good long-term strategy for just trying to one-up your competitors in a category that might not even exist or be as powerful as it is like a few years from now, right?
Right. And if you're focused so much on like what the competition is doing, you're always going to be behind, right? Like you need to be focusing on what are the consumer, like what's the consumer feedback and what should we implement on our next thing? Not, oh, hey, our competitor just released something, because then by that point, if you're already working off that release, then by the time you release something new, your competitor's already come out with something new. So you're always behind.
Yes.
True.
100%. That's why I feel like they really like messed it up.
Right. And it's crazy because when I was thinking about this topic, I'm like, MP3 players blazed the trail for smartphones. Like, I remember so many people going from having an iPod Touch to an iPhone, and it felt so seamless. It felt like
it was natural.
Yeah. It felt like there was not a heavy transitionary period. Like, I knew kids that had an iPod Touch and also an iPhone. And then eventually, again, it just phased out into them having an iPhone.
Well, this is just me being an old head, but I remember specifically the time period where you had to carry around a phone, like whatever type of phone. And then if you wanted to listen to music, it would either have to be like a CD player. I remember I had to carry it around one of those for a while, or again, like you said, just like your own MP3 player or like an iPod. And so when that fully transitioned and then you just go, oh, this is both in one. Why would I need to carry around both? Of course, it kills the entire other market. Like, same whenever they started adding really, really nice cameras to phones. Like, of course, you can get much crisper photos with like a full like DSLR and stuff like that. But when everybody has a phone in or a camera in their pocket, like it's just much easier that way.
Right. And I would argue that with the camera thing, I mean, phone cameras killed point and shoot cameras. The DSLR market is still out there. People who are professional photographers or even hobbyists, they will still go out and purchase a DSLR. But the people that are going out and just getting a basic point and shoot camera, that has gone away. I don't know anybody that uses like a digital point and shoot camera anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, neither do I. I will say, this is a little bit off topic from like what we're on about, but I will say I have seen a small resurgence in like digicam photography.
Yes.
Like going back to like cameras. Yeah, like going back to cameras released in like the late thousands.
I'm an old head, but I just saw an article about how Gen Z is like, man, I'm so nostalgic for like 2008 when people took their digital cameras to school, and I'm like, oh my god, that makes me feel old. Like going to
we're
the
at that age now.
Last day of school with your digital camera, and you and everybody taking pictures of each other, and I'm like, man, people are nostalgic for that already.
Yeah, but geez, that didn't take long.
Wow.
Or at least I didn't feel like it took long.
Right. I think that just means we're getting old, maybe. But I was also like, wow, that's kind of crazy, because like film has always been that way. You know, people are like, oh, we miss film and we want to do film photography. And there is a charm and an actual difference between film and digital photos. But I think it's really funny where I'm like, you mean to tell me you want to go down to a point and shoot camera that's got 10 megapixels? Like what? You want less quality?
Without getting very deep into it, I think people just miss the time, right? Like, it's just nostalgia at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's definitely a big part of it, I think. I mean, part of it, I guess, is for like artsy purposes,
And
but I feel like the biggest driving factor is nostalgia.
I think it's that thing, Eric, like, especially because you are a furry, I'm very sorry to tell you that. But I remember
No!
Oh my
I saw
God.
somebody took a like digital camera from like the early 2000s to like a convention. And I think it was a furry convention, and they took photos of like everything at the convention, but just with that camera instead of like their phone. And people were online sharing it. They were like, this actually feels like 2000s. Like, it's just that easy to replicate the...
I think I saw that, actually.
Yeah.
Couldn't think of it. Or like, maybe you're the one that sent it to me. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, what? You would never do that. But, you know... But no, yeah, 100%. That's kind of the reason I actually have like an Instax, like a Fujifilm.
Oh, I have one of
It's like a
those as
knockoff
well.
Polaroid thing.
Yeah.
Wait, sorry, Lexi, what did you say?
I have one of those as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and I like it too, just because, you know, it's like physical, it's like tangible, it's not
Right.
digital. Which, I mean, obviously, like we said, you know, phone cameras are amazing and they're great at that stuff. But when it comes to like making memories and stuff, I prefer having like the physical, tangible thing that you can hold, even if it's slightly lower quality. It's still nice to have.
Yeah,
Right, and that's
true.
what the article was basically saying as well, that there's a desire for people to get off their phones. And so even if you want digital photos on an SD card, having a point and shoot camera, because most people aren't going to run out there and pay $300 for a DSLR, you know, they'll go get a cheap point and shoot camera, and then they can put their phone away and enjoy the event, or, you know, whatever they're doing, or the photos. And I think that part is really cool. And tying this all together, that leads me to the question of, do you guys think that because, you know, Gen Z is already shifting towards, you know, oh, the nostalgia and the point and shoot cameras, and people starting to get really fed up with streaming and wanting more of a, hey, I actually own this song, or I bought the album. Do you think we'll see MP3 players make a comeback?
Maybe not on like a huge, I don't think it's going to become like a huge, like, grand thing where it gets like a thing back of market share or whatever, but I feel like it
Right.
might have a resurgence similar to that of like vinyls or CDs, right? Like those kinds of mediums have been making a comeback in the last decade or so. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if MP3 players did the same thing. Like I mentioned earlier, I've actually become interested in getting an MP3 player again, because I like the idea of like having like a small device and like thinking about what songs you want to put on it, like which couple hundred songs you want to put to accompany you like as you go about your day-to-day life. I feel like that adds a little bit of like something special to it, so that way you're not just like stuck with the infinite chamber of choice.
Shuffle
like when you open
loop.
Spotify. when you open Spotify and you have all these 10 million songs at your fingertips. I feel like there might be a push in a similar way to like people who want to move away from like being so ingrained in their smartphones, that we might find people who are moving away from stuff like Spotify and streaming to actually downloading MP3s and playing them like locally just on their devices. I feel like there is a very solid chance of that happening, because I know that's something I'm interested in doing, and I have no
Right.
doubt other people feel the same.
I agree with Eric as well. I think that there's going to be a lot of people that sit there and they're like the concept of like burning a CD, almost like making
Right.
playlists and sharing them with people. Like we've lost a lot of that, and we've lost a lot of the, like, but I think this is the only thing that was just ringing in my head the entire time that you asked that question. And while Eric was answering, was like, I think the in-ear like headphones like that, like just instead of not having like a wire connecting to an MP3 player, is going to make that extremely hard.
Ooh, that's a good point.
That
a
is a
lot
very
of
good
people
point.
have removed the headphone jack.
Yeah, I was gonna
That's
say,
true.
I don't know the last time I've owned a pair of headphones that didn't have like the headphone jack. I think it's been like 3 years.
Yeah.
Like my phone doesn't
Yeah.
even have that anymore.
And I
yeah.
was late to the party because I was like not wanting to give it up, and I don't love that I had to give it up, but obviously it's hard to find now.
It's extremely hard to find. And so like with that, like we're sitting here and like I would love to like, oh hey, just have this little thing for music, but even with that, it is one of those things where the technology has advanced, where of course you're going to have people that are like, oh no, I really enjoy vinyl, or ooh, I really like CDs, or ooh, and the feeling of cassettes and stuff like that, having the physical media. But like whenever headphones with an actual like jack have just slowly started dying out too, you're going to run into a lot of issues with, you got to find an MP3 player, find a company that still makes an MP3 player, plus the headphones, plus this, plus, oh, is it going to work with
Right.
this? Oh, then I got to go download MP3s. Well, how do I even get the MP3s? Like, people these days, and like, just not old man shakes fist at cloud, but kind of like, there's
You
not
know,
there's not
you
a
brought
central.
up another.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, you brought up another really good point, because we talked about how, like, our weird sandwich between millennial Gen Z generation, like, I grew up and my brother used LimeWire to download stuff, which was totally safe and not
You should do it.
pirating at
Right
all.
now,
legal.
Very legal. But like, and he's older than I am. And so that was that generation of people. And so even like I picked up a little bit of that. And like, I remember, well, not that I ever did it, but a friend using like YouTube to MP3 converters. But now that has kind of become even more difficult to do. And so I wonder if people younger than us that didn't grow up with that necessarily, or, you know, maybe they didn't have an older sibling that was doing that kind of stuff, would they even really know how to download the MP3s, and where would you put them, and how do you categorize them? And, you know, you might have to just go to an artist's website and like buy their album digitally.
Yeah, I've been trying to do that more often, actually. Like, instead of, like, obviously I still listen to most of my stuff on Spotify because it is the easiest way to do it. But
right.
if there's an artist that I really, like, care about and want to support financially, if they're smaller, normally I'll try and buy the stuff directly off of Bandcamp if I can.
Yeah, that's right.
Because I feel like that's one of the best ways to do it, to support artists directly.
I had been hearing that as well, that there's a push for people to put their stuff on Bandcamp. So I think that's interesting. I'm going to be very curious to see if, especially if enough people do go the route of like Bandcamp and being like, hey, I do want to actually support artists, like what these streaming companies are doing is shit. We could see something come back, or we could see, you know, people at least buying MP3s and putting them on their phones, you know, make a big comeback. But
definitely.
The MP3
and there's also
players,
a factor too, sorry.
Oh, you're good. I was just going to finish saying, you know, but the MP3 players, it'll be interesting because, yeah, that point about the headphone jack being the way of the dinosaur is a very good point.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that too. Like, that definitely is an obstacle. But I also feel like with the amount of people, like, I do see a stronger sentiment, at least online, talking about how people want to go back to like owning stuff instead of streaming things, because you know, streaming and not owning is starting to get a pretty negative connotation for good reason at this point. And I think as that happens, I think companies like, you know, maybe not Microsoft or Apple, who knows, but maybe like companies will start to see that there is a demand for this sort of thing, and maybe we'll see a resurgence, like a nostalgia-based return of headphone jacks or MP3 playing devices and things such as this.
Or maybe SanDisk will keep making them.
Yeah, maybe SanDisk.
If they never stopped.
Maybe SanDisk will win back some space in the market share.
Yeah, really. Hey, yo, SanDisk.
Come up with a new thing.
I still got 2 of those MP3 players.
Hit
they
me
make
up.
a comeback.
Let's go.
So
yeah,
I'm
Lexi's
ready.
out here carrying you.
They quality product. That still
and
have
I also
the
just
cord.
want to say, really quickly too, I am dogging on like Spotify and streaming and stuff, but I don't necessarily think it's bad. Like, I'm definitely not like doomer about it, because, you know, I like to think of myself as a pretty like accepting, forward thinking of technology person, but, you know, sometimes it's just nice to kind of go backwards, you know, like kind of just embrace the technology that you had in the past, because sometimes like actually owning the stuff that you have, or having like a tactile thing holding the songs that you care about most just in your hands, is a good thing, and it can feel nice. Even though Spotify is probably objectively better, sometimes you like MP3 players because they just feel nicer.
Right. I just wish that there were more fair payments for artists. That's my biggest thing about streaming.
100%. That's also one of the reasons I'm considering ditching Spotify.
But anyway.
But who knows?
But anyways.
But anyway, yeah. We had that was a good conversation. I like conversations. They have words.
So let us know. MP3 War, you know, the official on paper winner was the iPod, but you know, let us know in the comments if you think that somebody else should have won, or if you still have an MP3 player, an iPod. Do you use it? Is it in any sort of usable condition? And
will iPod go down as the winner, or will Sansa make a comeback?
So thank you very much for listening to this episode on the MP3 player war. We really appreciate it. Continue to listen to us on audio formats, but also on our new channel here on YouTube.
Whoop whoop.
Woo! Thank you so very much for listening, and thank you for our patrons. Yes, we still remember you. We still know you exist.
We're nostalgic for our patrons.
We're nostalgic. Yes.
Yes.
You guys have been here.
Remember when you got that new Patreon like last month? That was wild.
Wow. Shout out to you.
Wow.
If you're here.
Whoa.
But genuinely.
Good grief.
Yes. But genuinely, thank you so very much. Patreon.com/grdn and Patreon.com/campfireharvest. Thank you both.
And with that, let's let Camp's music MP3 us out of here.
It is actually an MP3 file, so that works quite well.
Hell yeah.